Right. I was fortunate and went to school here at Texas, and while I was here back in the 70s, came to really love Lake Travis. And it's just a beautiful resource for the state. It's clean water, everything you would want to do, sailing, skiing, just out enjoying the lake. And I looked around. I was in chemical engineering, and there were no chemical plants around Austin, but there was this great lake, and so I thought when I retired I would like to come back and see if I could retire here. And so I sort of did my part of that, but the lake has really suffered in the last few years. The lake really, it always cycled up and down a little bit, but what happened to us starting in 2006, we started to see some low lake levels that we had just not seen. And then we had a large influx of water, something actually called a water bomb up at Marble Falls, 19 inches, all the lake came back in 07. And then in 08, it fell right back into a low lake level, and that really started to cause us what's going on. And it stayed, it came back a little bit, and people always said around here, don't worry, it'll rain, and it historically has, for people's memory, it rained, but then it really cut back, and things changed dramatically in 2008, and that's when things have started getting bad, and in 2011 they really fell off the table. So rice farming, rice farming has been in Texas for a very long time, but these dams were built in the 40s, and they generated a large amount of really excess water. They were built for flood control, they were built to control for electricity, but you had this large source of water. So rice farming was a very good crop for Texas down at that time. What's kind of happened here, though, is that it uses a very large amount of water, and back then there was a large excess of water, and so as the growth has developed here, that's taken demand. But the other thing that happened is that we sort of went to a period where we literally lost that large excess of water almost what seems to be overnight. And it's the drought of the 50s where this was back the worst drought before this. That's a long time ago. People don't have that in their memories. People here weren't here when that happened. So there really wasn't an appreciation of how the spigot could kind of be shut off. And now we're having to live through that, and the rice industry is in a difficult situation because of the need. They've adapted to this need of a very large amount of water, and all of a sudden it's not there. So this is coming from an engineering perspective. I had no idea of the complexity, all the different state agencies that are involved with water management and water planning in this state. We somehow have to find a way to come together and come up with common planning, integrated planning systems, and just get a handle on what is it we can sustain with where we are right now. Where do we want to go? How do we work together to get a solution to this? But we've got to get the people in the state to really understand the magnitude of the problem we're facing, and how we've really got to come to grips with water as a critical. It's not a commodity. It's something that we can't live without, and yet we're finding that harder to do, to raise awareness. But the people are coming, I think, here are working on conservation. We've just got conservation and new water supplies and hopefully a return to a little bit of a wetter period to buy us some time. But we have no idea how long that may take. This could be this year, it could be 5 years, it could be 10 years. It's hard to go on that uncertainty. Well, the area has really had a huge amount of growth, explosive growth in the Austin area, which puts a demand on the lake. And we've found that there's also very large downstream demands from the rice industry. And that's, I guess, I got involved with this thing working with, as one of the people that participated in the stakeholder process with the water management plan. And that's really where I started trying to understand what was going on in the water. The lake has access problems because it's a deep lake, this lake, and it's a reservoir lake. And as the water level fell below, what happened, the water level fell below, and it pretty much started to inhibit all access, pretty much, unless you were right there on the lake. We've had this real change in the lake, and that coming out of, I guess, from engineering background, I tried to look at this and say, well, what's going on? Started looking at the ends and the what's coming into the water, the inflows, what are the uses, and that sort of helped start to frame your question about demand. First thing engineers do is they do material and energy balances. In this case, a material balance is a water balance. So I started trying to gather the data, and I was able to work with the River Authority to use their data and put that in terms that were just practical. What's the inflows, what's the outflows? But that for people trying to explain that was hard, and I started using a term of the water checkbook, in terms of like the inflows are like your paychecks and your outflows are like the checks you write. And at the end of the day, we all have to live under budgets. And so this really came down to where our budget looked like we were not being able to meet our budget, particularly with the large checks that were being written or the releases. And that's when things got really difficult, because the water management plan didn't handle that very well. And so that's what we've had to work with. How do we bring that kind of new knowledge into this? And the tool, the checkbook, allowed you to ask what ifs. And one of the things that was very frightening was when you started to say when these inflows, the inflows have gone from being, these are hard numbers to fathom, but the average for the history was 1.2 million acre feet per year. And we've dropped down since 2008 to an average of below 400,000 acre feet per year. So we're at a third of the inflows, and the water usage, all the demands were based on the assumption that we had these very high inflows. And so when all of a sudden we have so much less, it really puts tremendous strain on everything. So the downstream use is very large, the growing metropolitan area needs very large. Significant conservation efforts, though, have been put on the metropolitan area. I think Austin has done a phenomenal job. They seem to have cut their gallons per capita per day usage by 30%. A lot of that coming in the last few years, and putting a big push on that. And that's what we need we need the downstream folks to also look at how do they cut their demands so they're able to meet their needs. We need to highlight the issues, the fact that this has become urgent. This is drinking water for over million plus 2 million people, and the risk with that. So we need to find ways to protect that deal, but we need to look for everybody's needs, try to find out how do we solve this. A lot of it is going to be new water supplies. We've got to find new sources of water. Right now we have this one stream of inflows that is essentially not doing very well, and yet the demands are upon us. It's generating the need to do emergency orders to dramatically reduce the downstream flows to protect the drinking water. This has been going on now for 4 years now, in this latest 4 to 5 years, it just I guess we're finding there's these natural climate effects that we didn't anticipate could cause these things, and that's part of the research, is understanding how long. What seems to be lacking is a lack of understanding of how long do we have to make it before maybe the climate change flips back, and that's one of the key areas of research that we're looking at. Well, for people like me that came because of the love of the lake, that's tough. And I had always envisioned this could be a great place for my family and my larger family, like I was able to do as a child, to enjoy water in Louisiana. So I tried to help create an environment that would be good for the family. And it worked great in 2010, but that's the last time we got people together, and then there's really been no way to do it since then. Everything is just right now gone. So that has a pretty deep, it's sad for the family to not be able to, it's good to have things to pull people together that they can enjoy, and that's currently just lost. So that's a tough one. Well, that's one of the reasons that we're having an impact is we've been able to find other people that would care about this, and we've gotten, it's a volunteer type driven organization. We've reached out to get the talents that we need, but we also have to raise money to find the research that we need to understand the hydrology, the science, and we need to find the facts of what's going on. Looking upstream, why is the water, it's not just, we're finding it's not just maybe the rainfall. We're learning about we need rainfall. We're not getting the kind of rainfall that would allow the inflows to be high from an intensity or a frequency. We're having a large, we're finding a growth of stock tanks up in the watershed where you don't, where people are properties are being split. You're putting in new places to catch water, and we're losing, we just don't, we've got to find those kind of things. We don't know what we can do about that, but we need to understand it. We need to take it into the modeling. If some of that stuff is permanent, it needs to be brought into the modeling, because the modeling is what's determining how the water modeling is how you set your water plans for setting how you use the water. And there's a lot of knowledge that needs to be added into those plans that's going to help us figure out how to find the solutions to this. It's part of it is rain, and part of it is understanding and being able to adapt.